on this 14th day of July 2024.7 FM. You can get interactive on that platform. On our YouTube and Instagram platforms, we are Udala Radio. My name is Frank Nebuka, and on the other side is Chisom Chinedu. Good morning, and she's wearing head tie this very morning.
No, I think you need to pay more attention to the characters. Are we good now? Yeah. So I think you need to pay more attention to the characters. You need to pay more attention to the characters. Okay, now.
Okay, so I was telling Stoney that Chisom Chinedu is wearing a head tie, and I do not know why she decided to do that this very morning. So she's going to tell us. Good morning, Chisom.
Let's just say scarves are part of fashion, and I am wearing a scarf by the Anier Ready. And it's a masquerade themed scarf. This on my scarf is the Adama masquerade.
Chimbo.
Yes.
You see, look at the way I just set myself up. Because this whole explanation, where is it coming from?
Look at it. Look at the Adama. And I must say, Nigerian artists are doing a lot. The Adama masquerade was actually hand painted by a Nigerian artist, the Aniarobi, and then put in wearable art or in printed or wearable items like the scarf and of course other. I think you must have also seen my tee with the same masquerade face on it.
Oh, see,
I love masquerades, by the way. I mean, I'm the kind of Igbo girl that I look forward to every masquerade outing in my village. Back in the day when I used to travel every Christmas, I know the days that the different villages rotate their masquerade outings. The day it's for my village and my community, I go to our own village square. When it's for the next village, we go to their village square. Like, I go all of them. That's how much I love masquerade.
So, something came to my mind now. Two names. One is Chi Masquerade and Chi Ezenwai. Which one do you prefer?
But leave me. I have way too many already.
Okay, so that's the teaser this very morning, and to let you know that we're going to bring the headlines this very morning. Antonio Lisambiki is going to bring you the analysis, and if you look at the papers, you will see interesting stories. There is an update on the rescue of the victims of Orile abduction in Oyo State. We have an update there. We are going to bring it that one. And then in Anambra State, we mentioned yesterday that a certain blogger who went on tirade to defame the governor of Anambra State that he was arraigned yesterday before an Amobe magistrate court. We're going to bring you update on that. And then we also understand that Dangote Refinery has, reverted to selling petrol to marketers in dollar denomination. And we're just wondering what is going to be the implications on the Nigerian economy at a time that we are still suffering from the aftermath of the crisis between Iran, Israel, and the USA. So all these and more that are going to feature on today's conversation. So we ask you to stay with us as we go now to bring you the headlines. Stay with us. Here once more, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. So I told you that Tony Lisambeki is going to bring analysis on the issues we are going to bring your way this very morning. Good morning, Tony. And I'll have to tell you what Chisom said in your absence. She said that she is the queen of masquerade. And I told myself that once you come in here, I must tell you that Chisom is the queen of masquerade we have in the studio.
Maybe Gen Z masquerade. Maybe. Well, if you ask Chisom what's the meaning of masquerade, she may not even understand.
Mau.
It's not about Mau. In Igbo land, in Igbo culture, women's participation in masquerade related issues or related events, it is minimal.
You have not heard of Mau.
But then of course I said it's minimal unless you are a Adopo. That's what we call Adopo.
I am an aspiring Mau.
No, what you are is Obodu, Obodu. There are different dialects to that, but there are people that call it Obodu. Obodu means somebody who is not an initiate. The Obodu. That's what you are. And then you are not even Adopo. You are not even qualified to be Adopo in the real sense. So you cannot be whatever you call it, queen of masquerade, since you are not even an initiate to start with. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, India Nambara. Good morning, India Onitsha. Good morning, India Smo. Good morning, Omunne no Omunna. We are back again in our sanctuary, the altar of the Most High. This is where we profess the truth. This is where we do our evangelism. This is our ministry. Ministry of truths. Ministry of awareness. Ministry of consciousness. Ministry that tells you everything you need to know.
Stop. Look well. Check left. Check right. Cross safely. Your life no get duplicate.
104.7 Udala Radio.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you once more for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to the Polity this Tuesday morning, the 14th of July 2026. My name is Franklin Obikatoni Lisambeki and Chisom Chinedu. All of us, we are together this morning. And just to remind you once more that we are live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. The video is already up, so you can go to the video and drop your comment in response to the issues we are going to raise on the program today. So we have four newspapers to bring you the headlines from: The Nation, Vanguard, Punch, and the Guardian newspaper. And we are going to begin with the headlines we have on the Nation newspaper. The big story there says, Principal, kidnappers beats up pupils, chain teachers. You can see the rider attached to the story, and that rider says, it says how the occupation went by GOC Makinde 6 probe. These are the writers to this very story. Then the story on page 6 of The Nation says federal government reverses WAEC NECO restoration fees hike. That's on page 6. Appeal court to INEC don't recognize ADC congresses by MAC-led NWC. And the headline says a forgery charge at DME may not appear in court. Fake agency chief alleges threats to life. 6 independent probe. Above the nameplate of the newspaper, you will see the picture of former bedside in his last moment. That's on page 7. Disco kick against next CAPEX account order on page 7. Court rejects Shore's request for long adjournment on page 6. And on page 8, you see the headline that says OPEC predicts positive economic outlook for Nigeria. And then if you go down the page of the paper, you will see some other headlines there. And this one says 4 siblings, man dies in Cross River landslide. That's on page 27. And on that same page 27, this one says terrorists.
Children were beaten, teachers chained, Alamu principal. That's speaking on page 10. And of course, the writers include, says, we were forced to trek through forest at night They ate cocoyam noodles drunk from a waterfall for 56 days. Victims' relative. Initial operation that led to security agents' death. Sources. Victims hidden inside a cave close to waterfall. And of course, on page 11, marking day 6, you went further into abduction. And then going on to appeal court affirming order, barring INEC from recognizing Mark's leadership. On page 5, how police uncovered fictitious PFI-PC. On page 9 and 28, I borrowed 400 million naira to secure PFI-PC appointment. Adeyemi is speaking. And of course,
Why she should ask the man where he's hiding. I don't know, because the man has been in hiding in as much as he's been talking to press from his hiding place. And according to him, his life is under threat, and that's why he's hiding. And he's asking for independent probe into the matter. And I'm wondering if government is going to listen to him to set up that independent probe, just like the likes of Femi Falana asked Nigerian government to do. But what did government do? Government asked ICPC to probe the matter. By the way, he's due to be arraigned in court today. So I don't know whether that is going to hold since he's in hiding. And this one says, downpour cripples Lagos, flood submerges cars, strands motorist. That story can be found on pages 4 and 5. This one says, oil tops $80 per barrel as Trump revives Iran blockade on page 21 of Punch newspaper. Dangote dumps Naira, begins petrol sales in dollars on page 22. This one says veteran.
Atiku, Obi hails suspension of 50,000 naira WAEC nickel fee hike on page 5. Orire, Makinde 6 UN probe into abduction of pupils, teachers. Now find this one on page 7. Dirty streets, how poor infrastructure, policy inconsistency worsen Lagos waste crisis. News page 4. And Niger Delta stakeholders urge release of Bayelsa communities 80 billion naira compensation on page 28.
Okay, so these are the headlines we have this very morning from different newspapers. We have brought to you 4 of them. We're going to begin our analysis on the issues. And like they do say that charity begins at home, there is an issue that caught attention yesterday in Anambra State. It's that he was being charged under certain laws. One of them is Cyber Crimes Prohibition Prevention Act of 2015, and specifically Section 24(1) was cited, and that area deals with cyber stalking. Then Section 38 regarding identity theft. And then talk about the amendment to the Cybercrime Act of 2024. He was also charged in that very area. Also, there was also some sections of the, what's it called again? Criminal Code pertaining to criminal defamation that he was charged under. So we have a man who went on his platform to write things that he fabricated against the government of Anambra State and his son, only for him to come back days after to say that he made up those things and they were never true. But guess what? What he did had already been shared, because I went to his page to see that that thing had been shared not less than 100 persons. And you are wondering, would he be able to, retract, or would he be able to amend whatever wrongs that he had done? But now he has a case before the law. So Tony, what is happening to Mr. Febu? Do you think that the Anambra State government is trying to kill a housefly with a sledgehammer?
Well, there is this saying that ignorance has no excuse in law. And sometimes many people don't know the consequence of utterances, actions, inactions, statements they do make. And I've always said, and I've always cautioned, beer parlor discussion is not the same as things said on radio, or things printed or shared through broadcast media, things like that. Most times people do not play according to the rules. They don't even understand cautionary measures. Well, you asked if the government is trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer. Probably is to set example. One is, if you look at the young man, I looked at him. From the look of things, the way he appeared when I saw him, this is somebody who is actually in serious of job or work or something to do. I'm just judging by appearance. This somebody, maybe may have got talent, but probably he's using it wrongly. And for the fact that he's the publisher of online Igbo Times magazine, I think it's an online stuff. You cannot be like Showere. You know, Showere Sahara Reporters is actually registered in the United States of America. Showere Sahara Reporters has no business in Nigeria. That's why Showere can print and then say certain things and get away with that. But not in everything anyway. Now let's talk about what this young man printed, because we must put everything and say it the way it is. This young man did not talk about government. You know, there is difference between criticizing government and delving into someone's private life. She was prepared to go for criminal defamation, but Uche could even take that apology immediately and beg for forgiveness. Now, the young man treaded in the same pathway, but this time around, who is going to bear the account? He has retracted some of the statements he made. But if you look at some of the things he said, how can you, on your magazine, online magazine, write something like breaking news, and we arrest anyone who calls also my son? He's not my son. I disowned him years ago, and he's no longer a member of the Soludo family. How can you print something like that? Has this thing anything to do with government policies? Come on and tell us that the road done so place is not good, some standard and things like that. Let's talk about issues and not keep you more than 24 hours. So the idea of taking it to the magistrate court is to get a remand order so that the person be kept in prison. Why the Directorate of Public Prosecution advised on the matter? Because the matter, if you look at some of the charges, I think you were reading some of the charges here. One has to do with cyber crime, bullying and stuff like that, section 24, which we know very well. And you can even go on and find out that this is a matter that High Court has jurisdiction. Just as the magistrate said, I have no jurisdiction. And he cannot grant bail on what you have no jurisdiction on.
So why was that matter taken to the magistrate court in the first instance?
Now, who is the prosecutor? The police. And I just said here, police cannot rush to High Court without the advice of the Directorate of the State Public Prosecution. They cannot. Police can only go to magistrate court. They can go to High Court if they had got the advice, but they have not got the advice. So, as against keeping the person beyond the specified period of time in our laws, they have to go to the magistrate to get a remand order. The idea of going to the magistrate is to get so that magistrate can remand some business in terms of relationship, in terms of everything. The wife was so much emotional. These were people that have built their home over time, sacrificed a lot. You know what it takes to build a home? People don't even understand. It takes a lot of sacrifices, tolerance, forgiveness, understanding, a lot. And somebody, Musia Kai Kai, and the person came online and just wrote, Tony Lumelu has divorced the wife. And many believe the story. It went viral. The man said, no, this will not go unpunished. The same thing happened. He was taken to the High Court. I don't know, because it's trying to High Court. Remember one thing. Frankly, I want to say this.
Because sometimes people will argue that they are guaranteed freedom of speech under the 1999 Constitution, and in that very case, it should not be curtailed in any way. So, what does the principle of freedom of speech encapsulate, and what does it not talk about?
Well, when you talk about freedom of speech, freedom to hold opinion, because when both of them go the same. If you go by provisions of Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, which is widely cited, freedom of speech means that nobody will gag you, especially when you are sure of what you are saying. Freedom of speech does not mean to talk rubbish, to say what you are unsure of. That's not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech envisages that nobody should gag you when you are sure of what you are saying. You cannot peddle anything untrue and rely that this is my freedom of speech. Untruth has nothing, maybe a source, but he must explain everything. Let's assume that this young man says Soludo disowns his son, allegedly. You know it's defamation, no doubt. But let's look at the word allegedly. And he comes to court and said, yes, that was why I used the word allegedly, because I wasn't too sure. The court will ask you, where did you cite the first instance that also warranted the use of allegedly? You must prove it. You must, because alleged means alleged somewhere. Who alleged? Because you are reporting that it was alleged. Where was it alleged? You must get into. So you don't just use something you don't have defense for.
I think Tony, this should go down to people not telling the truth. What has our world become so much so that people just sit down and concoct all sorts of lies and expect that Putin allegedly is going to?
You must
use allegedly when there is a story.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make.
What this guy sat down and did was concoct a story that does not exist in any realm. So, give me a second, please. What the problem here is? How do we go about this value orientation or reorientation now? Why are people comfortable with sitting down, selling lies, getting the clicks, and pages going viral? Is it all for the drive for Meta's money? Because make it make sense to me. Before now, people use social media and they were not interested in selling falsehood. Now people open accounts solely to sell falsehood because falsehood sells. So is it a problem in our value system where everyone is looking for something bad to get on the other person?
Okay, just hold on.
Okay.
We have these commercial breaks.
Right.
After the break, you can respond to the question.
From the commercial city of Onitsha comes Udala Radio 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, where authentic news and entertainment meet. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Ya onye na-ere Malta Guinness wetakwa otu bọtụ Malta Guinness ọzọ. Onye na-ere Malta Guinness wetakwa abụọ ọzọ mezuo ya atọ.
Ya Ikenna bọtụlụ Malta Guinness ole ka ị chọrọ ịṅụta?
Nwanne m ọ bụrụ ịmaghị maka ihe nrite Goodness Dunlad nke ndị Malta Guinness. Anaghị m aṅụ mmanya niile a na nkịtị o. Achọrọ m iji ya wee rite ihe nrite dị iche iche dịka fridge, TV, generator, standing fan, instant airtime ya na ezigbo ego. Gwam otu a ka ihe nrite Goodness Dunlad nke ndị Malta Guinness si dị. Naanị zụta Malta Guinness gị, mepee ya, skanụ akara ya, itinyezi akara dị n'okwuchi bọtụlụ gị. Ọ gwụcha ị nwere ike irite ego ruru nde naira 2 na ihe nrite dị iche iche ruo ngwụcha Ọgọst.
Chai Ikenna ebinyego m uche anụ nwa kemgbe. Bịa onye na-ere Malta Guinness wetara m bọtụlụ Malta Guinness now.
Malta Guinness, nourishing goodness for every side of you.
Malta Guinness.
How many things you go plug for the socket now? Overload now waiting the cause fire. And it dey start small before you go blow. Boom! Make you no regret am. Go check your house now. Unplug wetin you know they use.
104.7 Udala Radio.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, you are listening to The Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. My name is Franklin Ebeka, Tunyo Lisambeki, and Chison Chinedu. All of us are together. And before that very commercial break, that was a question which was put to Tony about Chison. So, Tony, I think it's time for us to respond to that before we get to other things.
No, we are talking about people sitting down and concoct things and put them together and try to fly it and sell it. It is a way of reminding everyone, you don't just call a dog a bad name to hang the dog. If you don't like somebody for one thing or the other, there are ways to express that dislike as against hitting the person below the belt, going after the person's family. And I've said it many times. It is important, like this young man, under the criminal code, because the criminal defamation will be under the criminal code, which is domesticated in Anambra State. It's a federal law, but it has been domesticated. He stands about 2 years in prison. Then cyber crime, because the one I mentioned earlier on, when you talk about the Cyber Crime Act, if that is to be used, but I doubt, because he will be prosecuted before a state high court. Cybercrime will be before a federal high court unless it is domesticated in Anambra State. That one is also a fine of up to about 7 million or even 3 years imprisonment. So this man or young man, by the time you put the charges, if he's convicted on multiple of these charges, I think the highest could be up to 3 years, and which may run concurrently, unless the governor decides to forgive him. He may forgive him, but most importantly is to set an example. There are those who are following maybe the candidate of the NDC, and for that reason, the rivalry between both men, they don't like the political statement coming from the governor of Anambra State, because he has pitched his tent with Bola Ahmed Tinubu for political reasons. And there are people that are feeling so bad about it. You must put your emotion in check. You can criticize politically, criticize government policies, criticize government business, criticize the style of politics, but it must not be defamatory in nature, especially when you bring in the family. Spare people's family. They are not the cause of your problem.
Tony, I'll be saying spare people. Stop spreading falsehood. Stop being in that constant need to say something or see something bad about someone. And when you're not seeing, you are concocting and selling. Stop it.
And let me also say...
Just give me a second.
Okay.
This rave to go viral, how would you believe something that comes from such a person? It's because social media is what it is.
Yeah,
Everybody hides behind the camera,
Exactly.
behind the screen, behind the keyboard, and types all sorts of rubbish. Frankly, why are you looking at me like that? If you meet this guy on the road, even wearing a suit, dress respectfully, if he tells you something, won't you second guess it?
No, the point is, just like I always say, it is a lesson for all of us. I remember during the time of Willie Obiano, many people called him all sort of drunkard, but nobody went below.
You are painting the words, you are doing this, you are doing collaboration. It's not about collaboration. One is this: there's what to call slander in law, and that's what to call libel in law. And all these things are in the range of that very defamation. And what people do not know is that sometimes when you want to engage in that kind of thing of a libel, and you go on to write text, maybe you use their platform on social media, write a text,
that should not be abused. All this before is being charged for criminal defamation. You asked which one based on what he did. But it depends on the one you want to apply. But I've been advocating that criminal defamation be expunged from our law. I've been advocating that. Remember the case of Dele Farotimi, where he made accusation against land issue, that he was able to bribe judges, and he said he had evidence, but the man felt so bad based on his reputation and filed a criminal defamation, write a petition to the police, because that's how it starts. You must first and foremost write a petition to the police, and the police will now take up the matter. That is criminal defamation. But situation where you approach court on your own without writing petition to the police, it becomes civil. And we have both laws that cover both processes. But the point is, people resort to criminal part because they want you to be kept by police and possibly be remanded in prison. I have been a strong advocate that criminal defamation be expunged from the law.
So if somebody writes to the police,
petition.
Yes, if somebody writes to the police, complain about an alleged defamation,
Yes.
just like the case we have now,
Yes.
is police bound to respond to it?
A good question. If they are bound, must. If I write any petition against anybody who may have printed or written things for me that had caused annoyance, I truly believe these things are false. That's all I need to do, is to write petition to the police. Once I write petition to the police, citing some of these things, and police will just look at my petition, the next they will arrest the person. And once the person is arrested, the person will be asked to make a statement, and then the next will be arraignment before a magistrate court. And once they do that, magistrate court will remand the person in prison, and then they will go for advice, because magistrate court will ask them to go for advice from the Directorate of Public Prosecution. And why they do that, you are still in prison. You are still in prison. Remember, Dele Farotimi was taken to the prison. Have you forgotten? Many Nigerians started saying, no, now, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done this. Some Yoruba elders saying, no, we can settle this. And it was settled out of court. That was how the matter left. Please.
All right. So let's go to Oyo State, where we have an update regarding the freedom which was secure for the abducted pupils and teachers. Yes, they talked about it, but the update is that the children and the teachers have been handed over to Oyo State government, and they are now under the care of Oyo State government. And the government said they are going to look after them for some days, ensure that they get their psychosocial support, ensure that they are no longer having some trauma before they get to give them back to their families. But that same yesterday, all the key actors in the incident, except the bandits, they spoke. The man who led the operation, he spoke. He explained how the operation went. Then the school principal, who was used as the poster face during the communication between the bandits and we the Nigerians, she also spoke. She talked about how they were treated while in custody and how they were moved. Then the governor of Oyo State to spoke about certain things, and he made a call on the international organization to institute an independent probe into what happened in Oyo State. And that brings me to the question: what is the governor trying to imply? Is he implying that there was a foul play somewhere? Perhaps it was politically motivated, because he was saying it was the day he declared for the presidency that these very school children were kidnapped and they were kept in captivity for 56 days before their release. But let's go to hear from him first, and then Tony comes in with the analysis. Let's see what the governor is trying to imply from that broadcast he made yesterday.
The circumstances surrounding this incident are sufficiently grave and unusual to warrant independent scrutiny beyond our domestic institutions. I therefore, with a full sense of responsibility as the executive governor of Oyo State, call on the appropriate international human rights and accountability mechanisms, including those within the United Nations system, to closely examine the facts surrounding this abduction and the circumstances of its resolution. Such scrutiny is not intended to undermine our institutions. Rather, it is intended to reinforce public confidence that the truth will be established and that every person found to bear responsibility, regardless of office, influence, or affiliation, will be held accountable. Under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the primary responsibility for national security rests with the federal government and the security agencies under its command. The Nigerian people, therefore, deserve a full and transparent account of what happened, who was responsible, whether there were institutional failures, negligence, or collusion at any level, and what measures must now be taken to ensure that no community is ever subjected to such an ordeal again. This is not about politics. It is about justice for the victims, reassurance for our people, and restoring public confidence that every Nigerian child can go to school without fear.
Okay, so Tony, that's the voice of the governor of your state, Sheyi Makinde. He had a broadcast yesterday, and you heard him, the calls he made yesterday. And already the presidency has reacted, saying that his politics taking too far. So let's talk about what is he trying to imply in this very call he made. That's number one. Number two is, do you share the sentiment with him that there is need for independent probe, perhaps coming from international organizations, to establish whether there was a foul play in what happened in Orile in Oyo State? Or is he overthinking it because of why
Sheyi Makinde is trying to imply or trying to imagine things he mentioned was because of the circumstantial coincidence. That's what we call circumstantial coincidence. He made declaration to contest and run for the office of the president. I think that was on the 14th of May, if I may still remember. And the school children were kidnapped on the 15th of May, the next day. Maybe some hours between the two incidents. What Sheyi Makinde, the executive governor of Oyo State, is alleging, he did not say it directly, but I'm just trying to put it away. It will be very clear to our people that it was state managed, that kidnapping was state managed, that these people were taken from these schools and kept somewhere, not in the bush. And the phraseology that they were in the bush was pushed. That was what he was trying to imply. That the school children, by me looking at them, they did not look like those who had been in the beaches over time. Where is the snake bite? Mosquito bite? Some of these bites, ants. None of these, children, none of them can be said to be having pneumonia, can be said to be having tuberculosis, can be said, some of the things that by the time you're exposed to climatic conditions, some of these things may be imminent. And they are not in any way, based on the test run, said to be suffering from any of these things. And for Sheyi Makinde, they were kept in a particular house, or they were kept in a home. They do not look like those in the bushes. He did not say these things directly. I'm just trying to independent probe, like calling on UN, calling on world bodies. They cannot come here without the imprimatur of the federal government. Federal government, if they allow that, it will happen. It's just making or calling for something that that somebody has to approve it. But on the other side, the presidency saying his joke taken too far, this, that. For the whole time, JMAC in the many Nigerians are saying we have not seen rescue operation where we are shown video. And many of them are calling it what a cinematic experience. That all the time, Boko Haram, bandits, terrorists, they have been ravaging homes. Show us the video of the one that happened in Benue Plateau, the rescue, the effort made by these security operatives. Can you give us the video?
So what would it be, Tony? I mean, Sheyi Makinde is calling for further transparency, accountability. And I am curious to find out, is it too much to ask all necessary means to do this himself? I mean, Sheyi Makinde can actually sponsor any kind of forensic investigation he wants on this matter without making too much noise and find what he wants to find. If there is anything to find, he can find it without putting it out on the tabloids and everything. So I am curious to find out also the sincerity behind this call. Is it that our politicians do not understand that some moves are better made quietly? Or is this just some sort of political statement to rattle the polity, get the kind of reaction he's getting, and everything dies down as usual?
For me, just like you asked, the call itself is political to start with. Because if he wants to find out anything, he can. Yes, the school children were handed over to him. Remember, he met them at the government house. He spoke with them. And at the same time, people will say that they may have been programmed not to say anything. They maybe have been cautioned not to say or spill anything. There was this interfacing, this interaction between Sheyi Makinde and the kidnapped school children. And you are heading a government, a subnation. You can find out whatever you want to find out and tell us what you have found out. You can do that. You don't need to make such a call. But the truth may be, yes, for me, if you ask me to make my own personal opinion, was there a kidnapping incident? Yes, there was. For me, I wouldn't see the reason why a school teacher would be beheaded, killed instantly. There was a kidnapping incident. But it could be that these people may have been found earlier than the time we are told. Maybe that's what I feel. They may have been rescued earlier and possibly kept in a safer place. But I'm just speculating. I'm trying to judge based on.
To understand why they looked as fit as they look.
That's what I'm saying. That they may have been kept in a safer place before the time.
Let's go back to what this principal told us. She told us that they trekked from place to place.
Yeah.
From time to time.
Yeah.
They fed on noodles, cocoyam, and I think she also mentioned one thing. And the bulk of the time they were left to the elements. I mean, outside. And I have been trying to make sense of it. Not you know me, Tony. I have counted down to the release of these children from the very day they were taken. So for 55 consecutive days, apart from Saturdays and Sundays in between, I reminded everyone who cares to listen that children went to school and didn't return. However, when they returned, I was overjoyed, they are back, and like every other parent, I just want a child to be safe. But when you look at them, Tony, for children, I mean, imagine a child even looking for the child's parents, getting lost in a day, how rattled and shaken the child would be. How much more a child who has been lost for 56 days? The stability was giving something off. And I don't know, them being rescued earlier than we were told, is it far from them not being kidnapped, actually, like some people are speculating? Is it far from people who think they were just kept away somewhere and the policy just heated up for some time and they were brought out again? Because that is what speculations are on some quarters.
That's exactly what he wants, as against making a call that will never be hacking on, or maybe listened to, or maybe acted on, or...
Okay, Tony, let me quickly see if I can accommodate this, because the general officer commanding 2 divisions of the Nigerian Army who led this very operation, Major General Chinedora of Nebife, I learned he's from Oka. He's the one that led the operation, and yesterday he also spoke, trying to give a rundown of how the operation went. The army officer who was killed in the operation, likewise members of Pamotekun and Vigilante who were killed, they were not killed on the day these people were rescued. They were killed at the first attempt by the military to rescue the...
It was sometime around 10:00 hours. We're conducting an event in the barracks, and I was called that something like that had happened. So we had to move in from all the troops that are close by to that area. And I and my team, we had to move from the barracks, and we drive with all the speed we could to get to those locations. And unfortunately, they have gone deep into the forest. But we had to organize a search team immediately. We went in with some of the hunters, local vigilantes, and Omoteko. But nothing positive happened that day. The following day we continued, and because of the nature of the forest, how thick it is, we had drone teams, we have Nigerian Air Force following up. But in some of those areas, you can't even, if you are under that place, you can't see the rays of everything. Then we have the Nigerian police. Apart from those ones in those special forces, we have them. We came from Oyo State, DSS from Oyo. We have Nigerian Air Force in Oyo. And specifically from the Air Force, we had a special team that from Kainji. That is where they have that tactical operations group with all their fighter aircraft. National intelligence agencies were part of it. We have troops from the Operation Savannah Shield in Kwara. We had to bring them in to do a kind of blocking force from that northern side of the state. And of course, other scenario rescue. The officer was buried in Adamawa State.
Okay, so you just heard the voice of Nebife, like the person I mentioned who led that operation, General Officer commanding 2 divisions of the Nigerian Army. The man I told you that from what I gathered, like he's from Oka, Major General Chinedora of Nebife. So he just gave a breakdown of how the operations went. So let's go for this very commercial break. Once we return, Tony can say 1 or 2 things before we wrap up on another issue that we have here. Stay with us.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
This
This is to inform all eligible citizens of Anambra State that the Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission, ANSEC, is inviting applications for the recruitment of ad hoc staff for the 2026 local government council elections. Vacancies are available for local government returning officers, ward collation officers, supervisory presiding officers. Eligibility varies and qualifications range from masters to senior secondary school certificate. Interested applicants are required to submit an application accompanied by 2 recent passport photographs and a detailed biodata. Applications for returning officers, ward collation officers, supervisory presiding officers, and presiding officers should be submitted to the ANSEC headquarters, Kilometer 8, Plot 1416, Oka Onitsha Expressway, Oka, while applications for poll clerks and poll orderlies should be submitted to ANSEC offices in the applicant's local government area. The deadline for submission of applications is Friday, 31st of July, 2026. For further inquiries, visit the ANSEC headquarters in Oka. Signed, Honorable Genevieve C. Osakwe, Chairman, Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission.
Travel, Okwaya, my guy. Follow Uno Road. If you feel like say you want travel this night, no worry. Travel smart, travel safe, travel in comfort and style with GO night bus service from Onitsha and Asaba, going straight to Abuja. Whether you're heading to Maraba, Kubwa, Utako, or Abuja Central, GO Transport gives you a smooth and comfortable journey all night. Experienced drivers day, modern luxury buses day, and a commitment to passenger safety. Departure time is 7:30 p.m. daily. Takeoff is at Onitsha and Asaba. So why spend the night worrying on the road when you can travel comfortably and arrive feeling fresh? Book your seat today. For reservations and inquiries, call 0906 639 8630 or 0700.
But accident no the plano. It just they happen. That small click of your seatbelt, if it save your life. And now 1 second matter. So, before you move, not just think wear your seatbelt every time.
104.7 Udala Radio.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, so you tune to Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and this is The Polity. My name is Franklin Ebekatundali Sambeki and Chisom Chinedu. We are all seated here for this very program. We listen to General Major or Major General Nebife on that very explanation that he gave. So, Tony, does that explanation on how the operation went in any way deal with the concerns that some Nigerians have about that operation that led to the rescue of those school children and the teachers?
Well, I still believe that many Nigerians do not believe state agencies. They do not trust them. They don't have confidence in them, and especially when it comes to the military. Many times they have said one thing, for different reasons they were actually disproved. Remember the incident that happened in Kaduna, where the ECOWA and I think one Catholic church, there were attackers, there were those who invaded the church and abducted some people. You know, military did their own statement, police did their own statement, though they later reversed the statement. It's not also vitiate for those who also want additional probe. But for the one of international probe, I don't think anybody would listen to that or hack into that. And nothing will be done as a result of that. I don't think that government will do anything intensively or hack on to getting the response as this man had wanted. But the thing is, whether you see it as a movie, left for you. If you see it as Nollywood action, fine. But we've seen the video clips. I've watched so many of them. But when you are watching these clips, you may even think that they were doing Hollywood.
Abdul Malik, of course, he gave a judgment, or rather she gave a judgment that barred INEC from recognizing or participating in any state congresses conducted by the Congress Committee, which was appointed by David Mark-led Kianeke Committee of African Democratic Congress. Mark and Co., they went to appeal that very judgment, and yes, the appeal court held onto that very judgment, saying that there was substance in what the court of first instance granted. Don't forget that this very case stemmed from a suit filed by some state chairmen who believed that their tenure hadn't expired before the Mark-led committee was brought in place.
Justiciable. my good friend Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, each case that comes before her, I've said what I said, but I'm not going to repeat it again, which is my good friend. Now, what she did was she entered judgment and asked that those chairmen be returned. Now, Mark Ribochola and co, they filed an appeal. Yesterday, there was a split judgment. He did not mention that.
Yeah.
There was a split judgment.
2-1.
2-1. Okon Aban, my very good friend again, and Okoro, both of them agreed. Then Justice Muhammad Bello disagreed, in fact dissented, because for him it was purely something that has to do with leadership. State congresses, are you talking about? Is it not leadership? It's leadership. And he said that the court, Federal High Court, ab initio, had no jurisdiction because it borders on leadership. But Aban Okon and Okoro said no, that it borders on constitution of the party being followed or not being followed. And I agreed with my very good friend Joyce Abdul Malik. But now look at the implication. Of course, the matter will go before the Supreme Court. The implication is this. People can begin to challenge the National Congress that brought David Mark. If this sells, the next will be litigation against the Congress that brought David Mark, because these state chairmen were actually not involved because their offices have been dissolved. It will trigger down to leadership of David Mark. But let me also say this. Justice Bello said one thing which many people should be aware of. He said that those who sued lack locus standi. Hey, what a locus? How can you sue when you are not a state chairman?
Yes.
Why would you come before the court and say you are suing for yourself and on behalf? Then you are not them. That this matter for the Justice Bello, who says that this matter should ordinarily be brought before the court by those involved, because they are the one that the court may deem to suffer whatever damage or whatever. You're not suffering anything. All of a sudden, you come from nowhere.
Does this weaken the party? Because all of these things, and as much as these people supposedly do not have locus, does it in any way weaken the party?
Of course, if you don't have locus, the court will dismiss it.
And so it has no implications whatsoever on the party?
No, how can? It's just like you making a claim that has nothing to do with you. It does not affect you directly, indirectly, it does not have, and you come before the court will strike it out and say, you have no locus. How would, if I grant this, how would the whole thing change or either change it positively or change it negatively about your